So here's the thing. You might hear some crows outside. You might hear some cars passing outside. This is because my window is open due to the fact that it is 25.5 degrees in this bedroom and I have no AC. I have a fan, but I can't be blasting that. It'll be like right into the microphone, so we're just gonna turn that off for now. I'll try to get through this video commentary without cooking alive, because the Vancouver Canucks had themselves some extra signings that I wanted to talk about here. These weren't the most direct or necessary or urgent signings to talk about and make video commentaries on, but I thought it would be appropriate to just go over all the things that Patrik Allvin did today. And that includes getting forwards Mackenzie MacEachern, Joseph LaBate, and Jimmy Schuldt signed to contracts here. These guys don't even get graphics on the Vancouver Canucks Twitter account, they just have text on the screen right here. Vancouver Canucks agreed to terms. Mackenzie MacEachern gets a 2-year two-way contract, Joseph LaBate gets a 1-year two-way contract, and Jimmy Schuldt on D gets a 2-year two-way contract. Now, here's the thing about these guys right here. They're all grouped in together because they were all approximately signed at the same time, and they're all kind of classified in the same rank. But upon seeing this release earlier this afternoon, I, like many other Canucks fans, kind of just were taken aback. I mean, we were like, wait a minute, what? They signed Joseph LaBate? Yeah, that is right. This is the same Joseph LaBate that some of y'all Canucks fans from yesteryear might be familiar with, because LaBate was a former Vancouver Canucks draftee. He was selected by the Canucks in the 4th round of the 2011 NHL Entry Draft, drafted out of the Academy of Holy Angels in the Minnesota High School Hockey League. He had 49 points in 25 games played over there, was super obscure since the USHS-MN League is rarely scouted even nowadays. What more 10, 15 years ago? But Joseph LaBate, 32 years old, center left wing, a big dude, left-handed guy. After he was drafted by Vancouver in 2011, he was developed in the Wisconsin Badgers system in the NCAA. He had played a full 4 years over there before getting attached to the Utica Comets. He had 20 points in 66 games in his first Utica Comets season before eventually playing with the Vancouver Canucks in 2016-17. If you remember, the Canucks in this time frame, they sucked. They were so bad that they were 2nd worst in the National Hockey League, and they ended up drafting Elias Pettersson 5th overall because of it. I mean, you can see the point production here. Bo Horvat led the team in points with 52, and he had 20 goals. That was the most productive guy on the team. Henrik and Daniel Sedin were here, Sven Baertschi was here, Granlund, Eriksson, Stetcher, Burrows, Ben Hutton, Jannik Hansen, Jack Skilly, Michael Chaput, Jason Megna, all of these guys, really not NHL caliber players, but they were forced to play here. Brendan Gaunce was getting a decent amount of games. Biega did as well. Drew Shore. Anton Rodin played a little bit, and then, of course, Joseph LaBate with 0 points in the 13 games he had as a member of the Canucks in 2016-17. Oddly enough, goaltending was looking pretty good. Markstrom with a 9.10, Ryan Miller with a 9.14, and Richard Bachman. Remember Richard Bachman? Yeah, he had a 9.20 save percentage that year. So Joseph LaBate does have some history in the Vancouver organization. He then found himself in Belleville, Milwaukee, Chicago. He went to the KHL, didn't really produce all too much with Barry Sestana, and then found himself back in North America the season after. Had a year with the Cleveland Monsters and Columbus Blue Jackets, had an assist, so there you go. He had his first NHL point after however many years it was since he had been drafted. What a comeback story for that, eh? Drafted in 2011, first NHL point in 2024, 2025. He then found himself back in Cleveland, finishing things off in the playoffs with 2 points in 6 games there. LaBate was a leader with Utica, and now he'll be heading over to Abbotsford to provide some more depth in the middle of the lineup, probably, and alongside of Mackenzie MacEachern, you're going to get the same thing out of him, too. Left wing, right wing guy, 31 years old, 6'2", initially a prospect drafted by St. Louis in the 3rd round of 2012's NHL Draft. MacEachern also was an NCAA product who eventually found himself in the St. Louis Blues lineup for a decent amount of time. He had 4 seasons pretty much where he was in and out of the Blues lineup, getting some points, getting some goals. Even last season, he had 2024-2025 stint in Springfield, 32 points, 40 games, but the year before that, he had a point in 8 St. Louis games. So he was an NHL guy throughout the years at some point, but he will most likely be an Abbotsford Canucks winger heading into next season. I mean, it's kind of obvious since he got a 2-way contract in general. Jimmy Schuldt is also going over to Abbey, most likely. 30 years old, 6'1", 203, left-handed guy. This is a really interesting pickup for Abbotsford, mostly because Jimmy is a left-handed defenseman. And there already are a number of left-handed defensemen on the Abbotsford Canucks. I just kind of question where Jimmy Schultz's role is going to be. Are they going to dethrone a Kudryavtsev or somebody? He had 21 points in 64 games last season as the captain of the San Jose Barracuda, for what it's worth, so there is some value in this player, I would say. He also had 8 San Jose Sharks games, the first few NHL games he had played in 6 years, pretty much, since he did have a point in his only Vegas Golden Knights game in 2018-19. But these are a whole bunch of NCAA guys in LaBate, MacEachern, and Schuldt, guys who had went through the ranks in the collegiate system to eventually become AHL tweeners, and they all have limited samples of NHL play. So Vancouver adding these types of guys into their AHL team, I'd say it's pretty good. I'd say that there is some value to have veteran-like guys suiting up and mentoring your young guys. I just kind of wonder what the rest of the Abbey lineup is going to look like, especially with some of the names that are already confirmed to have left that organization. Phil DiGiuseppe is gone, Sammy Blais is gone. There are still some other names like Bain, Sasson, Ratu, Brisebois, who did re-sign themselves, but Abbey is locking and loading with some of these extra depth talent that might be, potentially, some of the top tier guys on the team if you wanted to go down that path. Of course, you just hope that they don't dethrone anybody who is already young and developing, but still. I do kind of find it funny, though, that a lot of Canucks fans responded to Joseph LaBate's contract extension saying, hey, let's just see what all the other guys are up to. The Vancouver Canucks should sign Alex Biega. They should bring back Mike Zalewski. They should sign Evan McEnany, Borna Rendulic, Alexander Grenier, come on down, and Joseph Cramarosa, too. Just grab all the Utica Comets guys when Joseph LaBate was in that system doing well, and just decide to bring them all back on. Hunter Shinkaruk, what is he up to nowadays? Jordan Subban, Taylor Fadoon. This is a blast of the past if I've ever seen a blast of the past, and one of the longer gaps, I would say, for a guy to be back in the Vancouver Canucks organization after leaving the first time. It's like Trevor Linden 2.0. Okay, we're not going to go out there and say that. But anyways, there are some cops outside my apartment, and you could probably hear the sirens blazing about. So I'm going to leave you with that. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below about these 3 other Vancouver Canucks signings: Mackenzie MacEachern, Joseph LaBate, and Jimmy Schuldt, all guys who are getting 2-way deals and will likely be Abbotsford property. But if by some miracle they're able to make the Vancouver Canucks a la an Adam Cracknell from a few years ago, that guy was signed as potential AHL depth only to actually be good enough to play in the NHL. A lot of people were surprised about that. If that happens with any of these 3 guys, then we'll respond to it when it happens. But for now, thoughts in the comments section below about MacEachern, LaBate, and Schuldt. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.